What is going on YouTube? This is Ask the Root. So I'm going to review the third album by Birdman. Basically, this project is called 5 Star Stunna, and it came out in late 2007. Basically, this project was kind of seen as like an interim project as the appetite was starting to kind of boil over for Lil Wayne's The Carter 3. And I mean, it made sense to kind of get this project because I think if the Carter 3 had dropped in 2007, I don't think it would have went and sold 1 million copies. I think that they did the right thing back in those days by I think that Cash Money did the right thing back in those days by having people wait until 2008 for the Carter 3. And as a result, we got this bonus Birdman album, which may not have had to really happen. It's not like I didn't want it to happen, but just to kind of say it was a good thing. This is definitely a steal package to kind of get this project. It's really stellar, super stellar. But considering that Birdman had just dropped recently, just the year before with the Like Father, Like Son album, he didn't really have to do this album. And then before that, he dropped in 2005. So he definitely had a series of projects. He definitely had a series of projects. I'm glad he decided to drop this project just because it's actually pretty stellar. This one does not have as much heavy Lil Wayne affiliation. I mean, he is on here 7 times compared to 4 on Fast Money. But the thing about it is the vast majority of the Lil Wayne time, the vast majority of the times that Lil Wayne is on here, he just drops verses on the chorus. So he doesn't really drop like 16s and rap verses as much as just giving Birdman an extra chorus to kind of help function things. And that type of stuff. I would say there's at least 3 verses by Lil Wayne on here. Lil Wayne is definitely on like the singles and stuff. And Pop Bottles, in a lot of ways, that song feels like a Lil Wayne kind of the Carter 3 throwaway, I would have to say. But I'm glad that that's a Birdman song because that was definitely up to that. That was definitely up to that point Birdman's highest charting song. So it's just definitely kind of the thing there. Plenty of good Southern fried hip hop here. It kind of reminds me. The thing about this album that I was surprised about is just the fact that it has tastes of like previous albums. There's a couple tracks on here that remind me of like mixtape Lil Wayne and like the Like Father Like Son days and even a little bit of Rick Ross's Port of Miami album. So it's just interesting because both Birdman and Lil Wayne lived in Miami around 2006, 2007, 2008. So it's just interesting kind of getting some of that stuff. They affiliate with folks like Cool and Dre, Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, some of those type people are on here. This really kind of feels like a Florida type version. Not quite as like Louisiana as like maybe they like Birdman was in his Cash Money days, but I definitely like this kind of Miami fried version. This really feels like a mixture between like a Birdman album, a Rick Ross album, and a DJ Khaled album, which is pretty dope to kind of get that. So it definitely kind of has that feel. I mean, I know that there are folks out there that would say that Birdman is not that compelling a rapper and would just kind of say that the main reason why they fuck with him is for Lil Wayne. But this is an example of an album where he really kind of caught his wings and really had some shine through on here. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of songs with Lil Wayne on here, but a lot of these, I feel like these are pretty much some I feel like a lot of these just kind of have like the energy of being able to crest just kind of on their own and just be able. I mean, it's good to kind of have Lil Wayne on the chorus, but in terms of just like having Lil Wayne as like a cameo more so than like a full blown feature, I feel like Birdman does a pretty good job. I mean, I know that Birdman's kind of seen as like a plain rapper and probably could use lyricism work, but I look at this concept, he's just basically like a more basic version of Rick Ross or Jeezy or someone like that, just kind of in that sense. So it's just kind of that concept where he may be kind of vanilla as like a rapper and a lyricist, but I do like the fact that he has a lot of thundering kind of beats on here. He has that Lil Wayne affiliation, and he's a pretty good songwriter in terms of coming up with some of these. There's not a ton of dull topics on here. I feel like despite the fact that maybe the lyricism isn't there, which I don't really care too much about, I would have to say that there are some great topics on here. 100 Million, I Run This, Pop Bottles, Bossy. There's just some good moments. Wet Paint, just a lot of these that kind of have like some good topic matter that showcase that Birdman can craft an album. This is definitely one of his better ones. I think I like this one ultimately more than I like 2005's Fast Money. Maybe not as much as I like Father Like Son, but then that was like a dual album with Lil Wayne. But we'll go ahead and talk about the singles. There were 3 singles on this project. This is really like Birdman's most extensive project, I would have to say. I mean, apart from Priceless, which came out in 2009, this definitely competed as one of Birdman's most popular albums. Definitely cracked him pretty even in like the mainstream exposure. Definitely did better than Fast Money did, and pretty much did better than Like Father Like Son also. But the first single was Pop Bottles. This one is a pretty glitzy kind of nightclub song. Definitely has a flashy hook. This real excellent kind of song. Like I said, this feels like a throwaway from the Carter 3 This really feels like a song that Lil Wayne did featuring Birdman, just because on the Carter 3, Birdman's not on there at all. So it just is kind of the concept. This is like kind of like a leftover of the Carter 3 type Lil Wayne, where Lil Wayne was just white hot in 2007. So this is just a good example of Lil Wayne just tearing apart this song. And Birdman does a pretty good job on here too. This is a great slurred out kind of party tune. Definitely like the concept of this one. Just really kind of excellent club bop and just that sort of sense as far as stepping out. 100 Million is the second single. This is definitely a really good one. I used to really enjoy this song back in the days. It's a really stellar one. This is chock full of people on here, and this really feels like a DJ Khaled song because DJ Khaled's on here. Dre from Cool and Dre's on here. He does the hook. Jeezy's on here. Rick Ross is on here. Lil Wayne drops the verse on here, and Birdman's on here. So it's pretty much like a deluxe song here. A very Daisy kind of summer heat song. I mean, this song came out in the winter, but it really feels more like a summer heat kind of song. Definite hustle kind of tune. Very Miami fried. Feels like a DJ Khaled song. It's just an overall motivator. This is the sort of song that just feels like if I would have heard this nowadays, I would have thought that this was just a single by DJ Khaled. But it's basically like this the kind of like Miami fried type song. It just really feels like a posse track that like DJ Khaled would do with like Chevy Riding High or Hustlin' by Rick Ross, something like that. This really feels like something out of DJ Khaled's playbook. It's just interesting that this wound up being a Birdman song because this is just an overall deluxe affair. It's probably one of the best songs on this album. It's really kind of Miami, this very Miami oriented type tune that has a lot of star power and just has that kind of thumping, this kind of synthy kind of energy in terms of just being like a summer heat kind of song. Just real perfect for like July, June type weather. Definite good hustle tune. I Run This is the third single. This is another nightclub song. Definitely a very vanilla nightclub song at that. Very flashy. It's kind of a get crunk song and smoke, that type song. A get crunk and kind of have some smoke edge type tune. I would definitely have to say there. Maybe the beat gets a little bit tiresome. I mean, it's not quite tiresome, but it just kind of has the track record of just having. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is an almost song, but this one's probably this one just has a shorter beat loop that maybe folks that are not hardcore rap fans or just super hardcore, just really exuberantly like rap would probably maybe think that. But I don't have a problem with this beat. I feel like I Run This is just I feel like I Run This is just a great vanilla nightclub kind of tune. And this is one that has only Lil Wayne on the chorus. This is one where the first two songs, Pop Bottles and 100 Million, both had verses from Lil Wayne, but this is one where Birdman tries to hold up on his own, and it works pretty well. I would definitely say, I mean, minus like the beat loop being a little bit shorter, and I would just have to say it is a pretty excellent song. It's just a great album cut or great late single from Birdman, just kind of getting him stepping out on his own, minus Lil Wayne. I mean, Lil Wayne helps on the chorus, but I think this is a good example of a kick-ass Birdman song without Lil Wayne backing him up. Which a lot of times, most people see Birdman as like the guy who rides shotgun to Lil Wayne and that type of stuff, where he's just like the secondary. He's like the secondary type dude. But I feel like this is a good example of a Birdman song where it does have a loose affiliation with Lil Wayne, but he basically does this song on his own. It definitely worked. It's just too bad that this song didn't chart better. Like 100 Million didn't really chart that well either. The biggest song on here was Pop Bottles, which hit like the top 45 or so of the Billboard 100. Didn't quite do as well as like songs off of Priceless and some of that type of stuff. I feel like all three of the singles are just excellent. They just kind of were more in like the hardcore hip hop type feel, but I just kind of feel like they are good songs. I definitely recommend them in some of that context. I know Birdman is kind of seen nowadays as definitely more of a hardcore sort, but these are definitely like secondary kind of Lil Wayne gems from prime era Lil Wayne from 2007. So he was just killing this just kind of effortlessly, and Birdman was pretty inspired too around this time. So it's just good to get kind of like a Birdman fresh off his Like Father Like Son days, and he had a sharper edge than he did the previous albums. So it's just good to kind of get like a pretty close to prime era Birdman also. I'd say this late 2000s was a great time for Birdman. So these are just good songs. But yeah, there's 22 songs on here and there's 5 skits. That leaves 17 songs. And out of those 17 songs, I recommend 12 of them to you. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend those 12 songs. Those 12 songs would be Pop Bottles, 100 Million, I Run This, All the Time, Make Way, Fully Loaded, Grind, Bossy, I'm a Stunna, Wet Paint, Believe That, and the money so fresh. So a couple of these, like one that's an immediate highlight that I definitely feel like a good highlight off here is Grind. This one has Lil Wayne and Briscoe, where Lil Wayne doesn't drop a verse, of course, which is kind of a disappointment, but it does have Briscoe. And this just feels like a mixtape like tune, definitely something mixtape worthy. This just feels like something out of 2005, 2006 when Lil Wayne was dropping those dedications. Definite kind of one for that. This has that triumphant kind of brassy like production on there. It's a very stellar hustle song. I feel like this is a factory like song, and this really kind of feels like you're stuck in 2005 or 2006. This is a good one. This is interesting, kind of get Birdman on some mixtape type stuff because he wasn't always doing those, but this feels like a mixtape Birdman song. I feel like Bossy is a really nice ladies song. This is like a simmering ladies cut for like a spicy woman. They talk about in the song about liking a woman who's bossy, so it's a pretty nice one. It's a nice summer malaise kind of tune. Has some really nice kind of guitar licks on the song. They're just really slinky and kind of like distorted, and this has that kind of saucy kind of edge towards it. So I definitely like that one. And as a side note, this has Jason Derulo on the hook. So he was around even way back in 2007 before he blew up with his solo stuff. So it's pretty good to kind of get that. It's just a nice one, real nice beat. Wet Paint is like a lazy kind of warm weather tune. This is like a real, there are some summer tunes on here, despite the fact that this album came out in the winter. There's really some good summer gems on here, pretty much for double duty when you would mess with the Carter 3 and then this project. These just both hit in like a double whopping kind of affair. So I would say that like Wet Paint is a lazy warm weather tune, definite ladies track and a money track. I mean, Birdman just kind of has the entendres stacked up on this song, talking about cars, talking about ladies, talking about money and that type of stuff. This is an overall good hustle kind of tune and just day commute kind of tune. Very lazy type song. This has a very lazy kind of warm weather production on here. It's just a nice one. Another one that's kind of a lazy summer gem is Believe That. And this one has Lil Wayne on the hook. It's just a very nice day commute kind of song. This is one of the more popular songs off the album, according to Spotify. It's just very summery lays, getting deeds done, that type of stuff, getting deeds done and kind of beer sipping some of that. Just very lazy kind of day. And I feel like these are just good ones. I mean, really, Birdman was kind of doing some of those kind of dripping kind of summer tunes back on Fast Money and some of that type of stuff. And I want to say there were a couple on Like Father, Like Son, but these are just really kind of breezy kind of days and that sort of stuff. This pure summer heat. And I feel like Make Way is kind of like a mini posse tune. This has Fat Joe and then a reggaeton infused Lil Wayne. So Lil Wayne drops two verses. One is a reggae one and one's a regular one. This is a nice evening tune for getting ready to step out. This really has that kind of haunting kind of feel towards it, but just in kind of like a more night oriented sense. I feel like it's like a night version of Hustlin' by Rick Ross. So this is definitely very Miami fried. Feels like something like the Runners. Feels like something the Runners would produce or something like that. I do like this kind of Miami infused production. This is an example of one of those. All the Time is like a nice kind of dance club song. This one has like a real kind of tittering and kind of frenetic kind of beats. Definitely a dance club song for hanging out, but not necessarily dancing as much. I feel like it's just kind of being at the dance club, but maybe you're not necessarily just going stir crazy at like the dance floor, that type of stuff, but just being at a dance club and watching the women dance and some of that type of stuff and get, talking with them and that sort of thing. But it is a pretty good night venue track. I do like that concept of Birdman kind of having some dance club type tunes in like a different sense. That's a pretty good one. Fully Loaded's another nightclub song. This is a really good one. This is a very graceful type song. This one just has like a looming nightclub kind of feel. It's just a twinkling beat and very emphatic. This one just feels like the sort of stuff that Nicki Minaj likes to do where you're kind of more seen as like on a balcony or something like that. Just Fully Loaded just kind of feels like a song you'd listen to on the balcony where you're higher up and that sort of stuff. And it's just a very emphatic and kind of more dramatic kind of tune on there. It's just interesting kind of get that because Birdman was pretty rich. He was definitely kind of near Puff Daddy territory back in 2007. So it's just a very graceful kind of looming nightclub kind of jam. Definitely like that one. Yeah, it's just pretty emphatic, I just would have to say. And The Money So Fresh is another one. This is a real nice one. This is kind of like a Like Father, Like Son song, like off of Birdman and Lil Wayne's 2006 album. Very similar to some of the stuff on there. Just has a very similar beat to that sort of thing. It's a loot, money, and kind of hustle song. I mean, obviously it being called Money So Fresh, but it's just a loot and kind of hustle song. Getting ready to step out, has that energy of getting ready to do something. Not quite a full-blown party tune like Pop Bottles or 100 Million or like I'm a Stunna or some of those type ones, but definitely one for just getting ready. Just a few more things to get done. Just maybe it's like 6:45 p.m. You're just lacing up the last little bit, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, that sort of stuff. Just getting ready to step out. Pretty close to getting ready to step out, I'd have to say. This errand's just all but done. And then I'm a Stunna is a really nice one. This is probably one of the most pounding beats on here. This is a real nice, excellent kind of song for getting cranked and that sort of stuff. Just a pounding kind of nightclub track. This is another one where the beat loop, maybe for folks who are not exuberantly hardcore fans of rap, might think it's a little bit tiresome, kind of like I Run This. But I definitely like this one. Just a getting cranked kind of song. Definitely one to get drunk and get fucked up to, and have just has some overall great energy. So those are some nice ones. This a real kind of blaring, kind of pounding beat on I'm a Stunna. So to talk about the 5 songs I didn't enjoy out of 17, like I feel like R.I.P. was just kind of a mellow track. I mean, I like the fact that he was talking about dead homies on here, but it's just kind of a really kind of mellow and just kind of bluesy kind of song that just didn't quite add up. I feel like the energy probably should have been a little bit more mid-tempo than it was. It just really felt kind of like a glum song, but still had some pep towards it that just didn't match like the synchronization of the lyrics. Just kind of an odd one. I didn't really like We Gangsta. There's a couple like more street songs on here, like Love My Hood, We Gangsta, and Head Bussa, that just are kind of like typical kind of street Birdman like he was back in the 90s and such, that are just basically just nothing but thug posturing in that sort of sense. They don't have too much terrible recreation towards them. I mean, I do find them necessary, but in terms of like the context of just having recreational vibes, they don't do much for that sort of concept. So if you are kind of stunting and flexing and that type of stuff in more of a thuggish type sense, there are some songs for that, but just didn't quite connect with those as much. And then I just would have to say, like, So Tired was kind of an awkward one, too. This was one that the Game sampled off of his My Life song with Lil Wayne, but this one was just a very kind of sluggish song. This one just kind of felt awkward. I mean, I like the fact that Lil Wayne did a decent hook on here like he did on My Life, but it just had some kind of withdrawal and then kind of sluggish energy that just didn't match up the concept. I mean, it really did kind of feel like a tired sounding song when it's called So Tired. This was kind of an odd one for that sort of context. It's just different from Birdman's usual kind of triumphant sounding hustle mentality and stuff. But so me liking 12 out of 17 songs out of here, which is quite packed to the gills, I'm going to go ahead and give this album like an 8.75 out of 10. I feel like it's really quite the star-studded affair. Plenty of good moments on here. Birdman does step out of Lil Wayne's shadow and have some great moments, some great ones. Good lady song like Bossy, good mixtape song like Grind, good emphatic club song like Fully Loaded, nice posse tracks like 100 Million and Make Way, I Run This, and I'm a Stunna are some great club songs. There's just a good varietized amount. This is pretty much a pretty balanced Southern Fried album that just feels like a more recent version of Rick Ross's Port of Miami or DJ Khaled's We the Best or something. It's just really interesting how easily Birdman took the water with like the Miami type sound. It definitely feels like some Miami bass and just has some overall good vibes. If you throw in with that like a kind of halfway inspired Lil Wayne, prime era Lil Wayne from the Carter 3 days, where he does drop at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 verses, you do get some excellent kind of vibes that just is an overall hot ticket. So that's definitely some good stuff. And the social score, I will go ahead and give like an 8, just because I do like the concept. It's just the fact that I do wish that Lil Wayne would have dropped a few more verses. It would have been interesting to have kind of got some more of that. It's just a very kind of lightly peppered in taste Lil Wayne on here. I feel like Birdman was able to kind of step out and get some of these moments, but I just kind of look after it. He still is kind of in the hardcore sense, and his singles that don't have Lil Wayne on full shine just seem to kind of be somewhat cumbersome in the execution of conveying it to like the commercial kind of crowds. I think most people, especially nowadays, would just see him as like the guy who rode shotgun to Lil Wayne and stuff. But that's definitely not the case. This shouldn't be seen as a hardcore album, but in case it is, that's just kind of the concept about it. But there's plenty of good gems on here. Just take the plunge with Birdman. You'll definitely like it. It's definitely the thing. In terms of the future, like Birdman has all but retired, but he did drop a collaboration album with NBA YoungBoy and stuff like that. So he kind of is in the wings and that type of stuff every now and then. But this is definitely one to kind of look back into.